Someone put something in your cake.
The scream didn't come right away. At first there was only silence, thick, heavy, unnatural, like the entire rooftop restaurant was holding its breath. Serena Knight's fork clattered against the porcelain plate. Ethan Caldwell noticed the sound before he noticed anything else. He looked up mid-thought, mid-smile, mid-life, and saw the color drain from her face as if someone had pulled a plug inside her. "Serena," he said softly. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Her hand trembled violently as she tried to grip the edge of the table. The city skyline behind her, millions of lights, endless motion, blurred as her pupils expanded in terror. A quiet wheeze escaped her throat, followed by a sharp gasp that turned heads across the restaurant. Ethan stood so fast his chair tipped backward. "What's wrong?" he asked, panic already blooming in his chest. Serena shook her head weakly, eyes locked on him now, not with love, not with fear, but with something colder, something unreadable. Then she collapsed. Wine glasses shattered. Someone screamed. Another diner yelled for help. Chairs scraped back as staff rushed forward, faces pale beneath the soft golden lights of Orlia, the most exclusive rooftop restaurant in New York City. Ethan caught her before she hit the floor. Her body felt wrong in his arms, too heavy, too limp. "Call an ambulance," someone shouted. A server was already on the phone. Another knelt beside them, trying to keep Serena conscious, asking questions she couldn't answer. Ethan barely heard any of it. All he could hear was a voice. Small, urgent, terrified. "Please don't eat that cake." His eyes drifted slowly to the table. The dessert plate sat there, untouched now. Chocolate souffle, gold-dusted, perfect. The same cake a little girl had warned him about less than an hour ago. An hour earlier. New York glittered like a kingdom of light beneath the evening sky as Ethan Caldwell stepped out of his car and onto the rooftop elevator of Orlia. At 46, Ethan was used to attention, used to being recognized, whispered about, photographed from afar. Self-made billionaire, tech innovator, quiet philanthropist. Tonight, though, none of that mattered. Tonight was about love. Or at least, what he believed love was supposed to feel like. Serena Knight stood beside him in a black silk dress that caught the city lights like starlight. Elegant, effortless. The kind of woman magazines adored and investors trusted by association. She smiled at him as the elevator doors opened. "1 year," she said softly. "Can you believe it?" Ethan smiled back, squeezing her hand. "Sometimes I still can't believe you chose me." She laughed gently, the sound perfectly practiced. "Don't say that." The restaurant was breathtaking. Glass walls, soft music, candlelight dancing across linen tablecloths. Staff greeted Ethan by name. Champagne arrived without being ordered. Everything was flawless. And yet, as they sat, as they laughed, as Serena leaned closer and spoke about future trips and shared homes and quiet mornings, something inside Ethan felt oddly unsettled. Not fear, not doubt, just a faint pressure in his chest he couldn't explain. Then the girl appeared. She came from nowhere, slipping past the service door as if she had rehearsed it 100 times. She was small, no more than 12. Her skin was deep brown, her hair matted and pulled back unevenly. Her clothes were torn at the seams, shoes held together with frayed laces. But her eyes were sharp with urgency. She ran straight toward Ethan's table. Security moved instantly, but she was faster. "Sir," she whispered, breathless fear trembling through every syllable, "please don't eat that cake." Ethan froze. Serena had just excused herself to the restroom. The dessert had arrived seconds earlier, placed between them like a promise. "What did you say?" Ethan asked, leaning closer instinctively. The girl swallowed hard. "She put something in it, I heard her, by the kitchen." Ethan's heart stuttered. "That's a serious thing to say," he murmured. "I know," the girl said quickly. "She paid the chef. She said you wouldn't taste it. Please, please believe me." Hands grabbed the girl's arms from behind. "Sorry, Mr. Caldwell," a guard said. She slipped in through the service entrance. "Wait," Ethan said sharply. But it was already happening. They were pulling her away. Her eyes locked onto his wide, desperate pleading. "Switch the plates," she whispered urgently as they dragged her back. "When she's not looking." Then she was gone. When Serena returned moments later, smiling, Ethan felt his pulse pounding in his ears. "You look pale," she said, sitting down. "Everything okay?" "Yes," he lied. She gently pushed the dessert plate toward him. "You should try it before it cools." Her smile lingered. Just a second too long. Something inside Ethan snapped into focus. Slowly, carefully, he switched the plates. Now, standing over Serena's unconscious body as paramedics lifted her onto a stretcher, Ethan's legs finally gave way. He sat down hard. The little girl was right. Every question he'd buried now screamed to the surface. Who was she? How did she know? And why would someone with nothing risk everything to save a man who had everything? The ambulance doors slammed shut. Sirens wailed into the night. And Ethan Caldwell's life, his trust, his certainty, his heart, collapsed right along with the woman he thought he loved. If you're already drawn into this story, please consider subscribing. I worked incredibly hard to create this for you. The city didn't slow down for heartbreak. By morning, headlines were already spreading across financial blogs and gossip columns alike. Billionaire Ethan Caldwell's girlfriend collapses at rooftop anniversary dinner, food allergy, medical emergency, SOURCES silent. Ethan read none of it. He sat alone in the back seat of his car, staring out at Manhattan's endless motion as the city blurred past the tinted windows. His penthouse towered ahead, glass, steel, and silence waiting to swallow him whole. Luxury had always been his armor. Now it felt like a cage. Inside the penthouse, everything was untouched. Serena's heels still rested neatly by the door. Her silk scarf lay draped over the marble counter, faintly scented with jasmine. The space was immaculate, curated, empty. Ethan loosened his tie and dropped it onto the counter. His reflection stared back at him from the floor-to-ceiling windows, sharp suit, tired eyes, posture still rigid with control. To the outside world, he was the same man he had always been, disciplined, composed, unshaken. Inside, something was unraveling. He replayed the night in fragments. Serena's smile, the cake, the girl's voice. "Please believe me." Ethan poured himself a drink, hands steady despite the chaos beneath his ribs. He had survived market crashes, hostile takeovers, public betrayals. Instinct had carried him through every storm. And instinct, the same instinct he had learned to trust over numbers and data, was the reason Serena was alive right now. Alive but under investigation. The call came just after noon. "Mr. Caldwell," the voice said calmly, "this is Detective Marcus Hale with the NYPD. We need to ask you a few questions regarding last night." Ethan closed his eyes. "I expected that," he replied. At the precinct, the room was sterile, neutral, designed to strip moments of emotion and turn them into facts. Detective Hale sat across from him, mid-40s, sharp eyes softened by experience. "Serena Knight is stable," Hale said. "Doctors found traces of a rare paralytic compound in her system, non-lethal in small doses, very lethal in others." Ethan felt his jaw tighten. "It was intentional," he said. Hale nodded slowly. "That's what it looks like." "Who would do this?" Ethan asked quietly. Hale studied him. "That's what we're trying to determine, but there's one detail that doesn't sit right." Ethan's gaze sharpened. Which is? The poison was mixed into the dessert intended for you. Silence settled between them. Ethan leaned back, exhaling slowly. Then why is she the one who collapsed? Hale's eyes flickered. According to staff, you switched plates. Ethan didn't answer. Hale folded his hands. Why? A pause. Then Ethan said the words he hadn't spoken aloud yet. Because a child warned me. Hale raised an eyebrow. A child? Yes, a girl, no older than 12. She said Serena paid the chef, told me to switch the plates. Hale's expression shifted, not disbelief but concern. No one reported seeing a child near your table. Ethan frowned. Security dragged her out. We checked the footage, Hale said carefully. There's no clear recording of her face, just a blur near the service entrance. Ethan's chest tightened. She had been real. He knew it. Find her, Ethan said firmly. Please. Hale nodded. We'll try, but there's something else. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos, documents, bank transfers. Serena Knight has a complicated history, Hale said. Multiple aliases, shallow financial ties to offshore accounts, a former associate currently under investigation for contract poisoning overseas. Ethan's breath caught. You're saying? I'm saying, Hale interrupted gently, that the woman you trusted may not be who she claimed to be. Memories began rearranging themselves. Her reluctance to talk about her past, her sudden interest in his insurance policies, the way she always insisted on handling reservations, meals, private staff. Red flags he had dismissed as coincidence. Ethan stood as the interview ended, mind heavy. Outside, reporters shouted his name. He ignored them all. Back at the penthouse, night crept in quietly. The city lights blinked on, indifferent. Ethan stood by the window, glass in hand, when his assistant called. Sir, she said hesitantly, security found something. What is it? Ethan asked. A report from Orlia. The kitchen staff remembers a girl matching your description. She works nearby, cleans tables sometimes for spare change. Ethan's heart jumped. Where? He asked. A location was sent. A rundown block near the river. The contrast hit him the moment he stepped out of the car. No glass towers, no doorman, no valet lights. Just cracked pavement, flickering street lamps, and the smell of damp concrete. A group of kids huddled near a closed storefront, sharing food from a torn bag. Ethan scanned every face. Then he saw her. Sitting alone on the steps of an abandoned building, knees pulled to her chest, watching the street like it might swallow her whole. The same eyes. Sharp, afraid, brave. Ethan approached slowly. Hey, he said gently. She looked up startled, then tried to stand and run. Wait, Ethan said quickly. I'm not here to hurt you. She hesitated. I believed you, he added. You saved my life. She studied him, searching for truth. Finally, she sat back down. You shouldn't have, she said quietly. People like you don't thank people like me. Ethan swallowed. In that moment, surrounded by decay and desperation, his world of glass and gold felt painfully hollow. Her warning hadn't just saved his life. It had cracked something open inside him. And he was about to learn that kindness, real kindness, never comes without cost. The girl didn't look at him as a savior. She looked at him like a mistake she might regret trusting. Ethan noticed it immediately. The way her shoulders stayed tense, the way her fingers curled tightly into the sleeves of her torn jacket as if she were bracing for impact. Every instinct in her body said leave, yet she stayed. That alone told him how much courage it had taken for her to warn him that night. I didn't save you, she said quietly. I just didn't want someone to die. Her voice was soft but steady, shaped by things no child should have to learn. Ethan crouched a few feet away, careful not to invade her space. The concrete steps were cold, stained by years of rain and neglect. A stray cat darted past them and disappeared into the shadows. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Maya." "Maya," Ethan repeated gently. "I'm Ethan." She nodded, already knowing. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "Your kind doesn't come to places like this." "Maybe I should have come sooner," Ethan replied. Maya looked away. For a moment they sat in silence, two people from opposite worlds, connected by one terrifying decision. Finally she spoke. "I was cleaning tables near the kitchen," she said. "They pay me sometimes, not much, but it's better than nothing." Ethan felt something twist inside his chest. "You're 12, he said quietly. "I'll be 13 next month," she replied, not meeting his eyes. "That's not an answer." Maya shrugged. "People don't care how old you are when you're hungry." Her words landed hard. Ethan thought of his childhood, public schools, scholarships, late nights working through college. But even at his lowest, he had never known hunger like this. Never known invisibility. "What did you hear?" he asked carefully. Maya swallowed. "I was wiping counters, she didn't see me. She was talking to the chef, whispering. She gave him an envelope." "What did she say?" Ethan asked. Maya's jaw tightened. "She said it would be quick, that you wouldn't feel a thing, that she deserved what was coming next." Ethan closed his eyes. "Why tell me?" he asked. "You didn't know me." Maya's hands trembled slightly. "Because my mom died that way." The air seemed to leave the street. Ethan opened his eyes. "What?" "She trusted someone," Maya continued, voice barely above a whisper. "Someone who smiled at her, someone who said they loved her." Ethan stayed silent. "They said it was an accident," Maya said. "Food poisoning, but I heard things, I saw things, and when I heard her talking I knew." Maya finally looked at him then. "I couldn't let it happen again." Ethan felt his throat tighten. "You risked everything," he said. "They could have hurt you." "They already do," Maya replied simply. That was when Ethan understood. This wasn't a random act. It was a choice forged by pain. A waitress emerged briefly from a nearby diner, glanced at them suspiciously, then went back inside. The city never stopped watching, but it rarely saw. Ethan reached into his coat and pulled out his wallet. He hesitated, then slowly extended it toward her. Maya flinched. "I don't want your money," she said sharply. Ethan withdrew his hand immediately. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean." "I didn't warn you for money," she continued, eyes flashing. "I warned you because it was right." "I know," Ethan said quickly. "I just didn't know what else to do." Maya studied him. "People always think money fixes everything," she said. "It doesn't." Ethan nodded. "You're right." He took a breath. "Let me help you another way." Maya stood suddenly. "No, I can't stay here if they find me." "Who?" Ethan asked. She hesitated. "People who don't like witnesses." Fear crept into her voice now. Ethan stood too, heart pounding. "You're not alone anymore." She laughed bitterly. "That's easy to say." A black sedan rolled slowly down the street, its headlights sweeping over them. Maya stiffened. "That's them," she whispered. Ethan stepped in front of her without thinking. The car passed. Maya exhaled shakily. "You should go," she said, "before my trouble becomes yours." Ethan turned to face her fully. "My trouble already is mine," he said, "and so is my responsibility." Maya searched his face. "You're not afraid?" she asked. "I am," Ethan admitted, "but I'm more afraid of what happens if I walk away." For the first time, something softened in her expression. A fragile crack in the armor. She sat back down slowly. Ethan followed. They talked until the streetlights flickered brighter and the city cooled around them. She told him about sleeping in shelters, about dodging social workers, about cleaning restaurants after hours, about learning which streets were safe and which ones swallowed kids whole. Ethan listened, not as a billionaire, not as a savior, but as a man being changed. When he finally stood to leave, Maya asked a question that stopped him. "Why did you believe me?" she said. Ethan thought of Serena's smile, the cake, the voice in his chest he'd ignored for too long. "Because you had nothing to gain," he said, "and everything to lose." Maya nodded slowly. As Ethan walked back to his car, he realized something unsettling. That night at Orlia, the most important act of kindness hadn't been switching plates. It had been a child choosing to speak when silence would have been safer. And that choice was about to change both of their lives in ways neither of them could yet imagine. The truth didn't arrive gently. It came crashing through Ethan Caldwell's life like a storm that tore the roof off everything he thought was solid. 2 days after the incident, the phone rang just before dawn. Ethan was already awake. Sleep had abandoned him since that night, since Serena's body went limp in his arms, since Maya's trembling voice confessed the reason she couldn't stay silent. His penthouse, once a sanctuary, now felt like a glass box suspended over an abyss. "Mr. Caldwell," Detective Hale said, his voice tight, "we need you to come down to the hospital." Ethan's stomach dropped. "Is she?" "She's alive," Hale said quickly, "but the situation has escalated." At the hospital, fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Doctors moved with quiet urgency. Officers stood posted at every exit. Hale met Ethan near the ICU. "She woke up," he said, "and she asked for a lawyer." Ethan nodded slowly. "That doesn't surprise me." "She also asked for you," Hale added, "specifically." The room smelled like antiseptic and fear. Serena lay pale against white sheets, her beauty stripped of its polish. Tubes snaked from her arms. Her breathing was shallow but steady. When her eyes opened and found Ethan, something passed between them, something sharp and final. "You switched the plates," she whispered. Ethan didn't answer. Her lips curved faintly. "Clever." "You tried to kill me," he said calmly. Serena closed her eyes. "I tried to survive." Ethan stepped closer. "By poisoning me." "You don't understand," she said weakly. "You never did." "Help me understand," Ethan replied. Serena laughed, a thin, broken sound. "You were worth more dead than alive." The words landed like gunfire. "You took out insurance policies," she continued. "You made promises. You built a future that didn't include me in it." Ethan shook his head. "I loved you." Serena's eyes hardened. "You loved the idea of me." A nurse stepped in, cutting the moment short. Outside the room, Hale exhaled slowly. "That's enough to press charges, but there's more." He handed Ethan a sealed report. "Forensics confirmed the poison," Hale said. "It was intended for you, but here's the part you need to know." Ethan's eyes scanned the page. Serena hadn't acted alone. "She had help," Hale said. "Someone paid her to do it, someone who wanted you gone." Ethan looked up sharply. "Who?" Hale hesitated. "We're still tracing it, but whoever it is, they know about the girl." Ethan's blood ran cold. "Maya," he whispered. Hale nodded grimly. "We think she overheard more than she realizes." Ethan left the hospital in a daze. The city roared around him, unaware that something predatory had just shifted its attention. That night, Ethan sent private security to check on Maya's block. They came back empty-handed. "She's gone," the head of security reported. "No one's seen her since yesterday." Panic clawed into Ethan's chest. He drove there himself. The steps where she had sat were empty now, her cardboard mat gone, no sign she'd ever existed. A shop owner nearby shook his head. "Street kids move fast," he said. "When trouble comes, they disappear." Ethan felt sick. He had promised she wasn't alone. And now she was gone. Back at the penthouse, his assistant waited with news. "Sir," she said quietly, "someone broke into your office." Ethan stiffened. "What was taken?" "Nothing," she replied, "but something was left." On his desk lay a single object. A folded napkin. From Orlia. 3 words were written in thick black ink. "Stay out of it." The message was clear. This wasn't over. Ethan's instincts screamed danger, not just for himself, but for a girl who had already risked everything. He contacted Hale immediately. "They're threatening me," Ethan said, "and Maya is missing." Hale's voice hardened. Then this just became a protection case. The next day, the story exploded. Leaks, rumors, speculation. Serena's past came to light, her aliases, her connections, her arrest. But behind the headlines, something darker moved. A man Ethan had never met before appeared in his life. His name was Victor Rains. He requested a private meeting. Against Hale's advice, Ethan agreed. They met in a quiet private club overlooking the Hudson. Victor was polished, calm, mid-50s, eyes like steel behind a friendly smile. "I'm sorry about the chaos in your life," Victor said casually. "Unfortunate misunderstandings happen." "You paid her," Ethan said bluntly. Victor smiled. "Let's not pretend this is about morality." Ethan leaned forward. "Where is the girl?" Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Safe for now." Ethan's fists clenched. "She's a child." "She's a liability," Victor replied. "One you do well to forget." Silence stretched between them. "Walk away," Victor continued. "You get your life back, your money, your peace." Ethan stood. "No," he said simply. Victor sighed. "Then this will hurt more than it needs to." As Ethan left, a realization settled deep in his chest. The act of kindness that saved his life had lit a fuse. And the consequences were no longer theoretical. They were hunting a child. And Ethan Caldwell was done pretending this was just about him. Finding Maya felt like chasing a ghost through a city that had already forgotten her. Ethan spent 3 days searching places his old life had never prepared him to see. Crowded shelters that smelled of sweat and fear. Church basements where tired volunteers served soup to lines that never seemed to shrink. Abandoned buildings where children slept with one eye open. Everywhere he went, he saw her face reflected in others. Too young, too tired, too invisible. On the 4th night, the rain came down hard. Ethan stood under the awning of a closed bodega near the river, soaked despite the coat he wore, when a familiar voice spoke behind him. "You shouldn't be out here." He turned. Maya stood a few feet away, hood pulled low, shoes soaked through, eyes alert and guarded. Relief hit him so fast it almost knocked the air from his lungs. "I've been looking for you," he said. "I know," she replied. "You're not very subtle." He managed a small smile. "I was worried." She scoffed lightly. "That's new." They stood in silence as rain hammered the pavement. "You followed me," Maya said finally. "No," Ethan answered. "I searched." She studied him. "Why?" "Because someone threatened me," he said, "and they mentioned you." Her face tightened. "Then I was right to disappear." Ethan nodded. "You were, but you shouldn't have to do this alone." Maya turned away. "I always have." He didn't argue. Instead, he said something unexpected. "Come eat." She laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "With what money?" "My money," Ethan replied. "No strings, no deals." She hesitated. Hunger won. They sat in a small diner with cracked vinyl seats and buzzing lights. Maya ate slowly at first, then faster when she realized no one was going to stop her. Ethan watched quietly. "When's the last time you had a full meal?" he asked. She shrugged. "Depends what you call full." Guilt washed through him. Afterward they walked. The rain softened, the city exhaled. "Why are you helping me?" Maya asked suddenly. Ethan thought carefully. "Because you did the right thing when it was dangerous, and because I can't unsee what I've seen." Maya stopped walking. "You don't owe me," she said. "I know," he replied. "That's why this matters." She looked at him for a long time. Then she spoke. "My mom worked kitchens," she said. "Places like that restaurant. She trusted the wrong people." Ethan listened. "She got sick, nobody helped, nobody asked questions." Her voice wavered but didn't break. "I won't end up like her," Maya said quietly. "I won't disappear." Ethan felt his eyes burn. "You won't," he said. "Not if I have anything to say about it." That night, Ethan arranged something he had never done before. Not a hotel. Not a luxury suite. A safe house. Somewhere quiet, anonymous. Maya resisted at first. "I don't want to be owned," she said. "You won't be," Ethan promised. "You'll be protected." She agreed on one condition. "No guards inside," she said. "I need to breathe." Ethan nodded. The next days were strange and fragile. Maya slept for hours at a time, as if her body was catching up on years of exhaustion. She flinched at sudden noises. She kept her shoes by the bed. Ethan visited daily. Not as a rescuer. As a listener. They talked about books, about movies she'd watched through store windows, about the places Ethan had traveled, and the places he wished he'd never gone. "Does it get lonely?" she asked one night. "What?" he said. "Being rich," she clarified. Ethan laughed softly, "More than you'd think." She nodded like she understood. One afternoon, Ethan brought her a sketchpad. "I used to draw," she said, surprised. "What happened?" he asked. "Life," she replied. She drew that night faces, streets, shadows. Pain poured out in charcoal and lines. Ethan realized something profound. Maya wasn't broken. She was buried. Meanwhile, the threat grew closer. Victor Rain's name surfaced in deeper investigations. Shell companies, disappearances, a pattern of silenced witnesses. Hale warned Ethan, "You're pushing him." Ethan didn't stop. Because Maya began to trust him. And trust, once given, was sacred. One evening, she asked a question that caught him off guard. "If I hadn't warned you," she said, "would you be dead?" Ethan answered honestly, "Yes." She looked down at her hands. "Then I guess I did something right." "You did everything right," Ethan said. That was the moment something shifted. Not charity. Not obligation. Connection. Two lives moving toward each other in the aftermath of violence and choice. And neither of them knew yet how much it would cost to protect it. The first argument happened over something small. Ethan had brought groceries, fresh fruit, warm bread, things Maya still hadn't learned to trust would be there tomorrow. She stood in the doorway of the safe house kitchen, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. "You didn't tell me you were coming today," she said. "I thought it would be okay," Ethan replied gently. "I wanted to make sure you had enough food." "I had enough," she snapped. Ethan paused. "Maya, I'm not trying to control you." That's what everyone says before they do. The words stung more than he expected. He set the bags down slowly. "I know you've been hurt, but I'm not your enemy." She laughed bitterly. "You live in a glass tower with guards and money and options. You don't know what enemies look like." "You're right," Ethan said quietly. "I don't know your life, but I want to understand." Maya turned away, breathing hard. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then she said, "People help you until it costs them something." Ethan felt the weight of that truth settle between them. "Then let me prove you wrong," he said. That night, Maya had a nightmare. She screamed, raw, panicked, jerking awake with tears streaking her face. Ethan, who had been in the next room reviewing security updates, rushed in instinctively. She recoiled at first, then collapsed into sobs. "I couldn't move," she whispered. "I couldn't scream. I knew what was happening and nobody listened." Ethan sat on the floor beside the bed, not touching her, just present. "You're safe," he said softly. "You're here." Her breathing slowly steadied. After that night, things changed. Maya began asking questions, not about money or safety, but about Ethan. "Why don't you have kids?" she asked one afternoon. He hesitated. "Because I was afraid I'd fail them." She frowned. "You saved me." "I didn't," Ethan replied. "You saved me first." Maya absorbed that quietly. But the danger hadn't faded. Victor Rains escalated. A black SUV idled outside the safe house one evening before disappearing. A burner phone was delivered inside a grocery bag. One message: "You can't protect her forever." Maya saw Ethan's face when he read it. "They're coming, aren't they?" she asked. "Yes," he admitted. Fear flickered across her expression, then resolve. "Then I'll leave," she said. "No," Ethan said immediately. "That's what they want." "They'll hurt you," she insisted. "They'll ruin you." Ethan knelt in front of her. "Listen to me. My life before you, it was already hollow. If I walk away now, I won't recognize myself." Tears welled in her eyes. "Why are you risking everything for me?" she whispered. Ethan's voice broke. "Because someone once risked nothing for me, and I became a man who confused comfort with purpose." Maya hugged him then, sudden, fierce, desperate. Ethan closed his eyes, heart breaking open. In the following days, Maya started school under an alias. She struggled at first, flinching when teachers raised their voices, sitting near exits. Ethan attended every meeting. Not as a billionaire. As a guardian. One afternoon, Maya handed him a drawing. It showed two figures standing in the rain, one tall, one small, both facing the same direction. "I drew the night you found me," she said. Ethan swallowed hard. "It's beautiful." She shrugged. "It's us." But healing never moves in a straight line. The guilt crept in for Ethan. Serena's face haunted him. The realization that he had ignored warning signs, that his choices had placed Maya in danger. One night he confessed everything. "I should have seen it," he said. "I brought this into your life." Maya shook her head. "No, bad people did." He looked at her. "You don't blame yourself." "Every day," she replied softly. "But blaming yourself doesn't save anyone." Her wisdom stunned him. That was the moment Ethan realized something terrifying and beautiful. He wasn't just protecting Maya. He was learning from her. But the storm was building. Hale called with urgency. "Victor Rains is moving assets. Witnesses are disappearing. He knows we're closing in." Ethan asked the question he'd been avoiding. "What happens to Maya if this goes wrong?" Hale was silent. "That's what I thought," Ethan said. That night, Ethan stood by the window, city lights glowing below, and made a decision. One that would put everything on the line. Maya watched him pack documents into a briefcase. "You're scared," she said. "Yes," he admitted. "Good," she replied. "That means it matters." Their bond had become something unspoken, unbreakable. Not blood. Not contract. Choice. And choice was about to be tested. The attack didn't come with sirens. It came quietly. Too quietly. Ethan realized something was wrong when his phone lost signal inside the underground parking garage. The lights flickered once, then stabilized. His driver, former military, calm under pressure, shifted in his seat. "Sir," the driver said slowly, "this doesn't feel right." Ethan's hand tightened around his phone. "Lock the doors." It was already too late. A black van rolled in behind them, cutting off the exit. Another slid into place in front. Doors slammed. Footsteps hoed. Maya's face flashed in Ethan's mind. Not again. Men emerged, efficient, faceless, wearing no insignia, not amateurs. The first gunshot shattered the silence. Glass exploded. The driver screamed. Ethan ducked instinctively as the world erupted into chaos. "Get out," the driver yelled, shoving Ethan toward the side door. Ethan didn't argue. He ran. Bullets struck concrete, sparks flew, the smell of burning rubber filled the air. Ethan stumbled behind a pillar, heart pounding, breath ragged. Then a voice cut through the chaos, smooth, familiar. "Mr. Caldwell," Victor Raines called calmly, "this is unnecessary." Ethan peeked around the pillar. Victor stepped into the open, unarmed, perfectly composed. "You should have walked away," Victor said. "Now a child is in danger because of you." Ethan stepped forward despite himself. "If you touch her." Victor smiled thinly. "She touched us first." Sirens wailed in the distance. Victor's expression hardened. "You can't save everyone, Ethan, especially not from the world you helped build." Then he turned and disappeared into the van. The attackers vanished as quickly as they came. The driver lay bleeding but alive. Ethan collapsed to his knees, shaking. That night, Hale didn't sugarcoat it. "They're escalating," he said, "and they're not bluffing anymore." Ethan leaned forward. "Then we finish this." Hale's eyes were grave. "By the book, this could take months. You don't have months." "What about witness protection?" Ethan asked. Hale exhaled. "For you, maybe. For Maya, it's complicated." Ethan understood what that meant. A poor, undocumented, untraceable child was easy to erase. Victor knew it too. The next threat came directly to Maya. At school. A note slipped into her locker. "You saved the wrong man." Maya read it twice, hands trembling. She didn't cry. She went home and waited. When Ethan arrived, she handed him the note without a word. His face went pale. "They found you," he said. "I know," Maya replied. Silence filled the room. "I won't run anymore," she said firmly. "I'm tired of hiding." Ethan crouched in front of her. "This isn't bravery, this is danger." "I lived in danger before you," she said. "At least now it means something." Those words shattered him. Victor wasn't just threatening lives now. He was threatening meaning. Hale uncovered the final piece days later. Victor Raines wasn't just a fixer. He was Ethan's former silent partner, cut out years ago during a merger Ethan barely remembered signing. "You ruined him," Hale said bluntly, "and he's been waiting." The kindness that saved Ethan's life had reopened an old wound in a powerful enemy. Victor wanted erasure. Not just death. Silence. One night Maya disappeared. The safe house door was open. No signs of struggle. Just a single drawing left on the table. Two figures in the rain. Only this time one was fatting. Ethan screamed her name until his throat burned. Victor called an hour later. "Come alone," he said, "if you ever want to see her again." Ethan didn't hesitate. Some acts of kindness demand payment. And Ethan was ready to pay. The warehouse sat at the edge of the river like a forgotten scar. Rust peeled from its walls, windows were boarded shut, no lights, no guards visible. That was what terrified Ethan most. He came alone. No security, no police, no phone. Just a man who had already decided what he was willing to lose. Inside, the air smelled of oil and damp metal. Each step echoed like a countdown. "Maya," he called softly. A light flicked on. She sat in the center of the room, wrists bound to a chair, not hurt but terrified. Her eyes widened when she saw Ethan. "You came," she whispered. Always, Ethan replied. Victor Raines emerged from the shadows, slow applause echoing in the vast space. How poetic, Victor said, the billionaire who finally understands value. Let her go, Ethan said. Victor smiled, after the truth. He gestured to a screen. Footage played, old contracts, silent approvals, Ethan's signature on deals that had crushed communities, shut down factories, erased people. You didn't know, Victor said, but ignorance doesn't absolve power. Ethan felt sick. I built my empire on silence, Ethan admitted, but I won't end this the same way. Victor leaned closer. Then sign everything over, public confession, testimony, you lose everything. Ethan didn't look away. Done. Maya cried out, no. Ethan met her eyes. This is what saving you looks like. Victor hesitated, surprised. Ethan signed. The pen felt heavier than any weapon. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Victor panicked. Ethan lunged, cutting Maya free as chaos erupted. Shots rang out. Victor tried to flee. Hale's voice boomed through a megaphone. It's over. Victor was tackled near the river's edge. As dawn broke, Maya clung to Ethan. You gave up everything, she sobbed. Ethan shook his head. I gained everything. The courtroom was silent, in a way Ethan had never experienced. This wasn't the silence of boardrooms waiting for a decision. This was heavier. Permanent. Maya sat in the front row beside Detective Hale, her feet not quite touching the floor. She wore a simple dress, hands folded tightly in her lap, eyes fixed on Ethan as he took the stand. He no longer wore custom suits. Just a plain jacket. No symbols, no armor. Victor Raines sat at the defense table, jaw clenched, the mask finally gone. Ethan spoke. He spoke about the deals he hadn't questioned, the profits he'd accepted, the lives that had been erased quietly so companies could grow loudly. I benefited from harm I didn't see, he said, and I'm responsible for not looking. The courtroom listened. So did the world. When Maya testified, her voice shook, but she didn't stop. She told them about kitchens, about whispers, about choosing to speak when silence would have been safer. The verdict came swiftly. Guilty. Victor was led away in cuffs, his power reduced to a memory. Outside, cameras flashed. Ethan shielded Maya instinctively. The crowd roared, some cheering, some angry. Justice never pleases everyone. But it had been served. That night, as rain fell softly over the city, Ethan and Maya stood together watching the lights. What happens now? Maya asked. Ethan smiled gently. Now we build something honest. Spring arrived without ceremony. No press releases. No grand reopening of Ethan Caldwell's life. Just softer air, longer light, and a city learning how to breathe again after a long winter. Ethan no longer lived in the penthouse. The glass tower had been sold, its echoing rooms finally emptied of the man who once mistook height for meaning. Now he lived in a modest brownstone on a quiet street where neighbors knew each other's names and the morning smelled like coffee and rain. Maya stood at the window, sketchpad balanced on her knees. Do you ever miss it? She asked without looking up. The money, Ethan replied. She nodded. He considered it. I miss who I thought I was becoming, but not who I actually was. Maya smiled faintly and returned to her drawing. Life had changed, but not magically. There were court dates, therapy sessions, paperwork that stretched for months. Ethan's public confession had cost him most of his wealth, his companies, his reputation in certain circles. But what remained was honest. He started a foundation, not with his name on it, not with glossy branding, but with one purpose: children like Maya, kids who worked kitchens, kids who slept light, kids who learned early that silence could be deadly. Maya helped choose the logo. It should look like an open door, she said. So it did. School was still hard for her. Some days she came home quiet, shoulders tight. Other days she talked endlessly about art class, about teachers who finally saw her. One evening, she handed Ethan a folded piece of paper. I drew the first night again, she said. He unfolded it. 2 figures in the rain. This time both were clear, standing side by side, no fatting. Ethan swallowed hard. It's beautiful. She shrugged, but her eyes shone. It's finished. Months later, they returned to Orlaya. Not for dinner. For closure. The rooftop had changed. New management, new staff, quieter lights. They stood near the edge, city sprawling below. That's where I stood, Maya said softly. Right there. Ethan nodded. That's where you saved my life. Maya corrected him gently. You saved mine too. They stood in silence as the wind brushed past. Before they left, Ethan placed something on the table. A folded napkin. This one blank. Not every act of kindness needs words. Years later, people would ask Ethan Caldwell what changed him. Some expected him to say betrayal. Others thought it was losing everything. He always said the same thing. A child who spoke when it was dangerous. Maya grew. She laughed more, trusted more, dreamed bigger. And the world slowly bent toward something better. Because one small voice refused to stay quiet. Because one powerful man chose to listen. And because kindness, real kindness, doesn't end when the danger passes. It multiplies.